Hello, so this is a review of Black Serenade, also known as Tuno Negro in its native country, which is Spain. It's a Spanish slasher set on a university campus in Salamanca. Okay, the story of the film then follows an individual billed as the Dark Minstrel, who is kind of seen as something of an urban legend. He's kind of a killer that some people don't believe in, but he's kind of gone about kind of killing students at universities across Spain. And the police have been kind of baffled by this. They don't really have any clues as to who it is, and there's so much so that like a lot of people don't even believe that it's that these deaths are the actions of the same person. So it's kind of like an urban legend. We then focus on a particular university in Salamanca, like I said, and after a few deaths have occurred here, we focus on a group of friends led by the new student and super intelligent Alex. And these friends come to realise that the Dark Minstrel is indeed more than just a legend, and is in fact at large at their very university. And after some investigation, they come to find out that they kind of see like a pattern in the killings, in that the Dark Minstrel seems to be threatening and indeed going after those students with the very worst records academically, or perhaps those known to be cheating in their exams. So he's kind of punishing their sins of poor performance or cheating with death. As the brightest student at Salamanca University, Alex starts to realise that she could be the perfect person to fight back and pit her wits against this Dark Minstrel and expose the person behind the legend once and for all. So that's the story of it. Going to the good points now, and I'll say that the killer looks pretty decent, clothed as they are in a kind of traditional minstrel costume, with a mask with kind of like a white mask with dark long black hair attached to it. Looks pretty decent. Like I say, it's not the best costume you'll ever see by any stretch of the imagination, but it's solid enough, passable, gets the job done. And it also kind of has a further strength in that it kind of enables the killer to kind of move around the campus relatively kind of without drawing attention to themselves, because there are a lot of these minstrels that are kind of walking around colleges, around the campus, I should say. It's kind of like a frat boy fraternity of a lot of the kind of party boys kind of dress in this kind of same costume, so it's a good way of blending in. It reminded me a bit of something like, say, Savage Row, when the killer wears those graduation robes and he kind of blends in on graduation day. It's kind of similar. So that's pretty good. The very premise behind the film is quite unique as well, with the whole motivation for the killer being that he's going after the poorest performing students and those known to be cheats. So to my knowledge, that's never been done before. Probably never will be done again. It's certainly a unique angle for the film. Unless this gets remade, I can't ever see that being reused. Also, the killer kind of uses the internet quite a lot. He kind of films his victims and then posts it on sort of internet chat rooms to taunt future victims. So it's kind of interesting there. That's not as unique, of course. That's been done in many different films in various capacities, but again, something that kind of makes it stand out. So that's some of the good point. Moving on then to the next point, and I would say that the film is reasonably gory in places. Several of the deaths stand out as being pretty good. There was one where I quite like near the beginning, where someone was being stabbed in like a toilet stall, and there was a couple of males that were just in the next stall that were kind of listening, but they were unduly worried because they thought she was kind of making sex noises, because they believed their friend to be in there with her, kind of having sex with her, so they didn't actually get alarmed, even though the killing was going on right next to them. That was quite imaginative. And there was another good one where one of the characters, I believe his name was Scorpion, he was kind of like a drug dealer around the college, and he was kind of high on drugs at the time when he was attacked, and he was kind of hallucinating as the knife was going in and blood was flowing. He was kind of hallucinating, and that was interesting. So that was a decent kill as well. Finally, the last good point that I'm going to mention is there was a big twist ending in this, which does kind of make it a little bit confusing perhaps, but it did certainly catch me by surprise. And I think this twist might be seen as a bad thing for some, because it is a bit of a stretch possibly to see that it all could, not all could make sense. But I did like it, and I think it was a positive for me overall. It did help elevate the film a little bit for me. So I'm going to count it as a positive, and I think it did all make sense. It is a bit of a head scratcher, and I had to go back and rewatch some parts of the film to make sure that it did in fact make sense, but I think it does. I think it all ties up okay, so I'm going to count that as a positive. So we're going to get into the bad points now, and The main one for me was that none of the characters really held my attention, and they didn't really seem very likeable. They're all pretty unremarkable, or just, like I say, plain unlikable, really. Not very memorable batch of characters, so that's really did hurt the film. I didn't really find that I gave a damn about any of them, to be honest. Including the final girl, who was Alex, that I mentioned previously in the story. She in particular kind of left me cold. I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing with her either, but I didn't go down the traditional kind of final girl route of having her like avoid sex and that kind of thing. She was shown to be quite sexually active. Not that that's a problem. I guess it's something that's kind of unique about the film, if anything. But I just didn't like her character very much and found her kind of hard to root for. Which, in reflection of the ending, some of these shortcomings could possibly be vindicated, but I still find it a bit of a problem, because if you've got no one to root for when you're watching the film, it does make it harder to get into it and to kind of invest in it. So that was a major bad point for me. There's also kind of like a bit of a boring aspect to the film when it kind of harps on a bit too much about the history of the minstrels and art history and the cathedrals and that kind of thing, and it's pretty boring when it goes into those kind of areas. There's also a part when Alex and her friend, her assistant, I should say, Sandra, were kind of doing something in like an old chapel. We saw them working there a couple of times. I wasn't really sure what they were supposed to be doing. That was a bit confusing. Yeah, I mean, it does all make sense. It's not like it's so confusing that it's all falls apart at the end. But it's not the easiest film to watch either. It's I definitely had to go back and rewatch several parts of it to kind of get my head around it, like I said before. So, coupled with this boring aspect, there's also some confusing parts. Next bad point, anyway, is the opening kill. This is connected to the very start of the film and the opening kill, which was good. It was quite a good start. There's a couple of small problems with it. I thought it kind of centres around this girl that's kind of speaking to someone through an internet chat room, and she then realises that the person she's speaking to is actually just outside her building, and he's kind of threatening her, so she's getting all freaked out. But at this point, then she kind of just stops doing the chat and kind of then just. And you would think at this point she would kind of leave her room and kind of go where people are so that she's safe, but she doesn't. She inexplicably kind of goes to the shower and washes her hair, which is really bizarre. And also shortly after that, so that was kind of stupid in itself. And then shortly after that, I don't want to give too much away, but her death takes place in a chapel, and the timing of that was kind of a bit messed up because her friend also kind of goes into the chapel around this time, and I don't think the killer would have had time to pose the body in the way that he did before the friend got there. So that was kind of screwed up there. They didn't do a really good job of that. I think the logistics and the timing were a bit off with that one, but it's only a small thing. There was also a really weird scene at one point, which is the next bad point, where there was a guy dressed in a minstrel garb that kind of was hiding under Alex's bed that grabbed her ankle. And I guess it was just like a cheap scare moment, but it wasn't really explained what he was doing there or who he was. It wasn't really touched on. I just kind of glossed over it and went on to the next scene straight after. That was really weird. They could have just left that out. It didn't make sense, really. Just a little stupid point that they left in there. There's also a sex scene in there, which I consider to be kind of a bad point. Alex at one point kind of has an affair with the policeman that's working the case, and they're having sex at one point, and then the policeman just suddenly handcuffs her to the bed and then starts teasing her, not teasing her, kind of threatening her really, with a knife while she's handcuffed. And I guess they do it to make us think for a moment that he's the killer, but I thought it was really stupid because, given that there have been murders going on campus, that's the whole reason the policeman's there. It's kind of unrealistic that he would do that and like maybe scare his new lover. But the stupid thing is that she kind of doesn't seem that rattled by it, and then after he kind of puts the knife to one side, they kind of get back to having sex even more vigorously than they were previously. So I guess she found it a bit of a turn on. But I'm all for like kinky games and domination and so on, but that seemed to be taking it a bit too far into the realms of unrealistic, really. Just given what had happened with all the previous murders, it seemed a bit stupid. So I didn't like that. And I think that's it really for the bad points. Yeah, so we're going to go on to my verdict now. I did like the idea behind the film, like I said, of the the killer going after the worst students. That made it quite unique. It kind of stood out for being different with that. And there were some decent deaths as well. They're not all great, but there was some that were like off camera. But there were some decent ones in there that were quite imaginative, quite different. So I did like that, and the gore was okay in places. The killer's costume was pretty good, like I said, not brilliant, but certainly not bad. But the whole affair was kind of dragged down by the unlikable characters, in particular the final girl, Alex, that I didn't really care for. And the ending, though, did kind of redeem the film a little bit. I did like the ending, even though it was a bit of a head-scratcher, but I think it all did make sense if you went back and watched it. And if you're really paying attention, I think it did make sense, but it was one of those things that you were kind of left a little bit perplexed by, perhaps when you first watched it. But the ending, on the whole, I did like it, so I'm going to count it as a good thing. It's not the easiest film to watch, like I said. It's not one where you can kind of like switch your brain off and just enjoy. You do have to think about it a little bit, and there are some boring parts, but on the whole, pretty decent. I'll give it maybe a 6 out of 10. And this, incidentally, is I believe, an Asian copy. It's got like Korean text or something on the back there. I don't think that anyone would probably buy this specific version, but if you do, then just mention the extras. It says trailer, deleted scenes, and interviews. The trailer's fine, the interviews are brief, but they're decent, but the deleted scenes, incidentally, on this don't seem to be deleted scenes at all. As far as I could tell, they were just scenes that were already in the film. Kind of weird, but not the first time I've encountered that with DVDs or Blu-rays. But anyway, decent enough, 6 out of 10, not bad. Maybe check it out if you get the chance. It used to be quite rare, hard to get hold of, but now it's become a lot more prevalent on eBay and Amazon and so on, so it should be quite easy to find. Thanks for watching. By the way, I'll put the body count in the description along with some brief film details. And check my website for more written reviews, or not more written reviews. These are obviously video reviews, but there'll be written reviews on the website. Link to that as well in the description. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.